Women have been conditioned by society to be, act, and think a certain way. Here at Girls IRL, we encourage women to challenge societal norms and embrace their femininity. With that being said, let's get into this week's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Girls in Real Life podcast. I am your host, Mariah Clayton. Happy Love Week. It is Valentine's week, and I don't know about you guys, but I love Valentine's Day. I wouldn't say it's my favorite holiday. I mean, I guess it's not really a holiday, but it's not my favorite holiday. But I just love, I love love. I love pink, as we all know, and it just feels like lovey-dovey vibes, and I'm here for it. I love seeing all the guys buy their girls flowers and taking them out on dates and just showering them with love and praise and affection. And I know that some people are like, every day is Valentine's Day, I don't care about this day, but you would be lying if you said you did not care about this day, because if your man showed up to you with nothing, no chocolate, no flowers, no card, no nothing, you would feel some type of way. So you could say that you don't care about it all you want. Every girl wants to feel loved and appreciated on Valentine's Day, and that's just my personal humble opinion. But today, the day that this podcast is being released, me and Justin are celebrating Valentine's Day. I don't know what we're doing. It's a surprise, so I'll have to update you guys next week on what we did, but I'm very excited. I went to a Galentine's party last night, which by the time you guys are hearing this was last week, but it was so much fun. My friends Raina and Shireen have a nonprofit called the Power Pump Girls, and it's basically an organization that is trying to end period poverty, and they are girls. The epitome of a girl's girl is Raina and Shireen, and they do their Galentine's event every year as their fundraiser, and this year I was honored to be able to do all of the social media stuff. So any of the posts, any of the graphics, any of the videos that you guys saw on the Power Pump Girls Instagram, that was on me, and it was so much fun, and I was so excited when they asked me to do it because I absolutely adore them so much, and this was just my way of, I guess, giving back. But yeah, it was literally so much fun. It was at it is a gay bar, but if you're not from Baton Rouge then you don't know, but it's called Mother's Lounge, and it's downtown, and I'd never been before, and they had a drag queen and she did a show, and I was just I was gagged. I was just so excited to be there. We had girl dinner. We had little chicken bites, french fries, shrimp, charcuterie. Everything was just so cute. Face glitter, raffles, dancing, drinks. It was just honestly so iconic, and I literally had the best time. If you guys haven't seen my pictures on Instagram already, then you can go over there and look and see, because it was so much fun. I'm actually going to another Galentine's party on Sunday, which by the time you guys hear this would have been yesterday, at my friend Kennedy's house. And she is that friend that just loves to host. She's an amazing cook. I just love going over to her house because she feeds us so good, and it's Super Bowl Sunday too, so I don't know what we're gonna be eating, but I know it's gonna be good. I know we're gonna have cutesy little drinks, and I'm very excited about that also. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of Galentine's Day plans happening and going on, and like I said, this is one of my favorite times of the year, just because pink and love and romance is in the air, and just love all together. I just love it. Which is very fitting because, as you guys can tell from the title, we are going to be talking about a form of love today. Not a relationship kind of love, not a friendship kind of love, but we're talking about self-love today. But before we get into that, I do just have a few more little life updates I'm going to do in this intro. One, I have to tell you guys that Ace has been adjusting to his new daycare so much better. He loves his teacher. I love his teacher. I love the school, the atmosphere, the vibe is just completely different. They update us way more than the last daycare did, and he just seems to be doing so much better. So I am so happy and thankful for that. He's still a little bit sick and congested, which I'm hoping by the time this episode goes up, he's not. But if he still is congested and stuff, we are going to have to take him back to the doctor just to make sure he doesn't have an infection or RSV or something like that. But fingers crossed, he is fine, and he's just, slowly getting over the COVID situation. Another update I wanted to give you guys with that, I started running again, y'all. If y'all have been following me for a long time, then you know I used to run a mile like every single day. Now, I don't run more than a mile, but I will run me a good mile, run for like a good 10, 12 minutes just to get my heart rate up, get a good little sweat before I work out. So I decided this past week that I was going to start running again. And I honestly have to say, like, it has felt so good. Like, I am seeing glimpses of my old self just like starting to come back. And I don't know if it's because I have more time away from Ace or if I'm just finally getting into like a good groove of my life now, but I've been running again and it's been so good. Like the runner's high that you get after you finish is just like something I can't even explain if you're not a runner. And like the endorphins are just going crazy. So I've been running a mile every single day. I've been working out in my garage and sharing my workouts on Instagram like how I used to. And it's just inspiring me to like keep going. I feel like me sharing my journey on social media is like a way for me to hold myself accountable. And then also like I just feel like I'm inspiring other girls because like they're messaging me like keep posting these, like thank you so much, like this is gonna get me to start working out again. And I'm just like, yes, we are in this together. So I'm hoping that this lasts for a little while, that I just keep being motivated to go out, run and work out and just, I mean, get a good sweat in. And it's not even like I'm working out for an hour. Like I'm literally running for like 10 minutes and working out for 20 to 30, doing like a little circuit that I made up or a HIIT workout or maybe even throwing on a Pilates video. Like I'm not overly exerting myself, but I'm just finding my way to get back into the rhythm of like working out and just being active. And I honestly don't think that like I need to work out for 1 to 2 hours a day. Like I can burn 300 to 400 calories in a good 30 minutes and like that be it. So anyways, that's what your girl has been up to. I think that is all the little updates that I have for you guys for now. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this video, which like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about self-love, and I'm going to give you guys 5 steps on how to achieve self-love at the end. But we're going to talk a little bit about what self-love is. Can self-love be toxic, narcissistic? We're going to dive into a little bit of other things before we get into the 5 steps at the end. But because this is the month of love, I really wanted to focus on how we can love ourselves. And I honestly feel like I'm walking in this right now. Like I'm actively walking through loving myself. So I just felt like it was a very, fitting time for me to do this episode. So anyways, if you guys are watching and I'm looking over here, it is because my iPad is over here with my little outline for the episode. So I might be looking over here from time to time, but I promise I'm gonna bring it right back. All right, so first we're gonna talk about like what self-love is and kind of like the definition of self-love just to set the tone for the episode. So self-love is all about giving yourself permission to receive unconditional love and support from yourself despite the inherent imperfections of being human. Now, when I was researching this, there were a lot of definitions and things that I saw about self-love, but this was the one that like I just felt like described it perfectly, because I love how they said it's all about giving yourself permission to receive unconditional love. Because I feel like a lot of times when we talk about self-love, it's all like give yourself self-love, love yourself. But you have to understand, like you have to give yourself permission to receive that love from yourself, because honestly, we're our biggest critics and we have the most walls up and we're just very critical of ourselves. So it can be harder for us to feel like we deserve that love from ourselves, especially when we think that we could be doing more or doing better or looking better or feeling better, whatever the case may be, right? You have to be willing to give yourself the permission to receive that love from yourself, even though you might not feel worthy of it at that moment in time, because nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Like this definition said, you're going to love and support yourself despite the inherent imperfections of being human. Like just because you do something bad or you failed at something or you're not where you want to be, it doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of loving yourself and being proud of yourself for what you have accomplished. Because yeah, you're going to make mistakes and bad things things are going to happen because that's just what comes with living life and being a human. But again, you're not any less deserving of love just because you did a bad thing or something bad happened to you, or you're not the person who you thought you were going to be. You have the power to literally change your thought process about yourself at any point in time, which I think is what is the most beautiful thing about life, is that literally in the next second I could decide that I want to be an astronaut and like literally take steps towards that. So I just love that like in this life we have the ability to change our thinking, change our mindset in the snap of a finger, and really just walk into who we want to become and what we want to do and the life that we want to live. And I'm a firm believer that like you're going to go through many different phases in your life that are going to cause you to learn how to love yourself over again. I feel like self-love is a never-ending journey. It's always evolving. There's always going to be something thrown at you that you weren't expecting, something that you're going to have to adjust to, especially as a woman, because I just feel like in general, we go through so many body changes and mental changes just naturally because it's like how we're wired as women. When we start our period and our hormones are going crazy, when we're bloated, when we're pregnant, and our body changes after we have a baby. And that's not even diving into like maybe you get into a car accident, or maybe something changes about you physically, something happens in your health and like you can't do the things that you used to do anymore. Life can change at the drop of a dime. So in order to continue to like love yourself and give yourself that permission to have unconditional love from you, it's a never ending journey. And it's always, in my opinion, it's always going to be something that is just very difficult, because if you've been used to yourself being one way in one season and now your life has completely transformed or altered in some way, it's going to take some time, and it's going to be a process of like walking through that self-love and acceptance of who you are and where you're at right now. And I just feel like I'm actively walking through this because, as you guys know, like I've been struggling with my body and just kind of like accepting where I am right now. And I've been very overly critical about myself. Like even last night when I got home from the Galentine's party and I was looking through all the pictures and I was showing them to Justin, I said a comment and I was like, oh my gosh, my arms look so fat. Like I need to go work out. I need to make sure I'm doing arm work. And he's like, Mariah, what are you talking about? Like your arm literally looks fine. It looks normal. But in my mind, I'm just like, all I see is a big chunky arm in this picture and like I can't see past it. So, it is a work in progress for me to be able to accept specifically my body for where it is right now. But it's just hard. It's hard when you look at old photos of yourself and you're like, man, I used to be this size and I used to be doing this every single day, and I used to have this mindset, and now I'm in a completely different season of my life and I'm not able to do those things anymore, or I don't look the same anymore. And you kind of like compare this new version of you to this old version of you, and you're like, where did that go? How can I get that back? But what I'm learning and what I'm trying to process in my mind is that I'm not that same version of myself, and I should allow myself to evolve and change and accept the growth and change that comes with that, because I'm not 23 and 24 years old anymore. I'm about to be 28 and I'm a mother, and like I'm just in a completely different phase and season of my life, and I'm trying to give myself permission to accept that that is okay, and I don't have to live up to these old standards that I was living up to in the past, because those standards don't apply to me anymore. Like, just to be honest, they just don't. So for me personally, I have been trying to work through loving myself and accepting myself for where I'm at in my life journey right now, and not harping so much on, well, I used to be able to do this and I used to look like this and now I don't, because it's just unhealthy and it's not helpful to you or your mental health, and it does nothing but stress you out. Trust me, I know. But yes, again, I think self-love is just a never-ending journey, and learning how to love yourself over and over and over again at these different phases of your life, even though you've done it before, like it's always going to take time every single moment that it happens, because you're adjusting to like a new lifestyle, a new mindset, a new season, and it's just going to take some time. So if you are like me and you find yourself in a new season, maybe comparing yourself now to past versions of yourself or wanting to be like somebody else, whatever the case may be, I'm here to tell you that it's normal. And self-love is a process, okay? It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not something that just comes easily or naturally to most people, maybe some people, but definitely not most people. And as long as you are able to work towards loving yourself and giving yourself that unconditional support and love, then you're going to be okay in the end. This part of it is not going to last forever. You're not always going to look in the mirror and hate what you see. You're not always going to be disappointed by not accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish. You're not always going to have doubts about yourself or think that you're not good enough. One day you're going to look in the mirror and know that you are worthy and that you are strong and that you are beautiful and that you are capable of doing any and everything that you want. And also, you can love yourself. But now we're going to sidestep into something else, because again, when I was researching this topic, one topic, I guess, of conversation that kind of kept coming up in my Google searches was, is self-love toxic? Is self-love narcissistic? Can self-love be bad? And I never really thought about that side of it before, because I always thought of self-love just being this like positive, empowering thing. But to see how some people, can look at it and take it as somebody being narcissistic or like bad or selfish or conceited, like I never really thought about that. So I wanted to just kind of discuss this a little bit on, can self-love be toxic? And if so, how is it toxic? Or like, when in situations is it toxic? So I personally think that self-love can be toxic if you are that type of person that is like, how do I want to put this? You know how people say, this is just how I am, take it or leave it type of thing? I feel like in some situations, yes, that is good. But then in other situations, it's kind of just like you not wanting to change things about yourself that bother other people, or like people that are close to you or important to you. So it's just kind of like you have these bad or negative characteristics. Like, I don't know, maybe you're selfish, maybe you're judgmental, maybe you're mean, maybe you don't think about what you say before you say it. And like, people have brought these types of things to your attention, and simply your response is, well, that's just the way I am, take it or leave it. And it's like, no, because those are not inherent pieces of like who you are. Those are things that are learned from society, maybe a defense mechanism at some point. And those are things that you can change about yourself. Like, these are not things that you were naturally born with. These are characteristics about yourself that you've collected over time. And now that people have brought it to your attention, you want to be defensive about it. But I think it takes a really big person to take heed to like what people are telling you, and actually, internally looking at yourself and doing something about it. Because if you're just that type of person that nobody can tell you nothing, you don't want anyone to criticize you, and you don't want to change yourself for the better, then that is not you loving yourself. That is not you becoming a better person and evolving into the best version of you. So when somebody points something out that maybe they don't like or they think is an issue, it is your job and your responsibility to internally look at yourself and really be like, man, am I like this? Am I selfish? Am I judgmental? Am I racist? Do I speak without thinking? Do I say hurtful things to people? And if you can accept that about yourself, then that means that you can change it also. But if you just want to be oblivious to what everyone is telling you and not, facing the truth, then you're just going to continue to be this, I don't want to say bad person, but like a bad person. Like, those are not the characteristics about yourself that you want to give yourself permission to love and to accept, because those are not good things. Those are not qualities of like a decent human being, I think another way that self-love can be toxic is when you use it as an excuse for unhealthy behavior. So like, let's say, I don't know, you love food and like you feel like because you love yourself, you need to allow yourself to maybe binge eat or overeat. And it's like you're using your self love and loving yourself unconditionally as an excuse to do something that you know is going to be bad for you in the end. Does that make sense? Or like maybe you're a really impulsive shopper or something, and your excuse to like buy all these clothes and all these makeup and all this jewelry is because you love yourself and like you're rewarding yourself, you know, like, and you know you don't have the money to spend on it. Like it's just a way for you to fuel your unhealthy behavior by calling it self-love. It's like, at what point is it just delusion, you know? Like, it's okay to be delusional sometimes, but like not when it comes to this. Not when you're literally fueling your unhealthy habits by claiming it as self-love. So I think that that's something that you just need to be aware of. Maybe you take inventory of, you know, what you're proclaiming as like, I love myself, so I'm gonna do this. You know, like, are you saying those things to activities and hobbies and things that you know are not good for you? Are you using it as an excuse? Obviously, I think it's okay to reward yourself with something every now and then. And it's okay to, you know, indulge in things that truly make you happy, that truly are an embodiment of like what self love looks like for you. But you just need to make sure that it's not something that's harming you or someone else, or, you know, just a bad habit that you need to kick. And you've just coined that bad thing as a way to practice self-love, you know? And then the last way that I think self-love can be toxic is when it doesn't allow room for you to grow. So this is kind of going back to what I said earlier about, you know, maybe having some bad characteristics that you don't realize or that you just flat out don't want to change about yourself. You know, I think that with self-love, there is always going to be room for growth and evolvement and just like becoming a better you. But if your self-love is not allowing you to do that, if your self-love is kind of stifling you or not allowing you the room to grow and develop and change, then, you know, maybe you're not doing it right. Or maybe you're just so stuck in your ways that like you don't think you need to grow. You don't think you need to get better. You don't think you need to evolve. And that is an issue as well. So I think with all of these, it's just a very fine line, and you just need to be hyper aware of what does healthy self-love look like versus what does toxic self-love look like, because it's very easy to step over that line and not even realize that you're doing it. So I think just being self-aware is probably the number one way that you'll be able to discern if you're practicing self-love in a good and positive way, or if you're practicing it in a negative, self-deprecating kind of way. But with that being said, we're going to get into the last segment of this episode, which is 5 steps to self-love. You guys know I'm going to give you the blueprint, okay? So the first step that we're going to take to unconditional self-love is recognize that you are experiencing emotional distress or mental suffering. And I think that's just the first step with literally anything in life. Like, you have to be able to recognize it and be aware that like something is happening. And with self-love, it's a little bit trickier because you have to be really like in tune with yourself and check in with yourself very often. And if you're not really fully connected to yourself, to your mental, to, you know, your inner being, your soul, then it can be hard to notice when you are experiencing like these negative shifts in your mental, in your thinking, your thoughts. So you really have to pay attention to your inner self in order to notice like when you're starting to shift into this negative state of mind. Now, after you recognize that this negative feeling or thought is there, the next step is going to be to accept that that feeling is there. And honestly, like, this is probably one of the hard parts. Like, next to recognizing it, accepting it is the next hard part, because you're like realizing in your mind that these thoughts that you're having and believing about yourself are kind of like true. Not even true, but it's like, for someone who's tried to push off those thoughts for so long, and now you're getting to the point where you have to accept the thought in order to move forward, it can be really difficult because a lot of times we just try to push away our negative feelings and, like try to pretend like everything is all right. Nothing is wrong with us. We're just fine. But accepting the feeling is kind of accepting the fact that, like, wow, I am having these negative thoughts about myself. I do think badly about myself. I do have these negative feelings toward myself. So we really need to get in the habit of like not pushing away our thoughts and our feelings and trying to cover everything up and put a mask on and make everyone else think that we're okay. We have to actually deal with the thoughts that are coming into our minds and deal with the feelings that we're having in order to like move past them. So now that you recognize that the feeling is there and have accepted that fact, the next step you're going to do is imagine how you would feel if you saw a loved one experiencing this feeling. And I really like this step because we are so much nicer to other people outside of ourselves. Like, we are able to give so much love and advice and grace to everyone but ourselves. So if a loved one came up to you and said something about them hating their body, or said something about them not being proud of themselves because they failed at this certain thing, if a loved one came up to you and said something about struggling mentally, like, your response would be one of loving and care and like reaffirming like their value to them and how special they are and how beautiful they are and how amazing they are, right? But we don't ever give that same love and grace and respect when it comes to ourselves. And it's sad because it's like, why do we think that we don't deserve that? Why do we think that we're not good enough for that? Why are we so hard on ourselves that like we literally can't even be nice to ourselves when we're going through something that is difficult? We deserve the same compassion and grace that we give out to other people. Absolutely, 100%. So like for me personally with my body, like I say so many mean things to myself like in my brain. And I know that if my sister were to come to me and tell me that she was struggling with her body or she was not confident in the way that she looked, I would be hyping her up. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you are thriving. You are doing so amazing. You look so good. Like, I would just be giving her all the compliments, hyping her up, trying to get rid of all of those negative feelings that she's feeling about herself and reaffirm her with just like love and acceptance and tell her that she's beautiful, right? Why can I not do that for me? Why is it so difficult for me to look in the mirror and be like, Mariah, you are so beautiful today. Like, you just had a baby 11 months ago and like you are killing it. You are finding your way. You are getting into a rhythm. You are growing and evolving into the woman that you've always wanted to be. Like, I don't say those things to myself, and it's just sad because if it were anybody else, I would sing their praises. I would say something like that to them. So the next time you're having like a negative feeling about yourself, a negative thought, just think about what you would say to someone who you truly love and care about if they came to you with that same issue. What would you say? How would you make them feel better about themselves? And do that for you. The next step to unconditional self-love is going to be to challenge your negative self-talk. Now, like I just said, you have to find a way to affirm yourself in the same way that you would affirm another person. But when you're your biggest critic, sometimes it can be really difficult to like find good, positive things to say. And that is why I'm a huge believer in affirmations and just, speaking life over yourself every single day. Any single moment that you're having a bad thought, like, you have to turn that negative self-talk into positive self-talk. Shucks, even when I was on my run this morning and like my body was literally telling me to stop, you need to walk, like you're tired, I was in my brain telling myself, you are powerful, you are strong, you're gonna keep going, like you're doing so good, you're doing so amazing. And like it literally helps keep my feet running. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but you have the power to speak life over yourself, and your mind is a very powerful thing. What you think, you are. So if you think bad things about yourself, if you think you're ugly, if you think you're fat, if you think you're not good enough, if you think you don't have enough accomplishments, then that is what you're going to portray. But if you speak positively over yourself and tell yourself that you are beautiful, you are doing everything right, your time is coming, like, just speaking affirmations and manifestations over yourself, then obviously you're going to be a much better, happier, positive person who embraces themselves. So you really do have to find ways to change your perception about yourself, get to the root of the problem. Like, why are you saying all of these mean things to yourself? Where is it coming from? Are these things that people told you when you were younger? Are these insecurities that you have about yourself? Like, really, where is the root of the problem? Where is this negative self-talk coming from? And then really doing your best to just change your perception, find a way to speak positively to yourself, speak life over you, and I promise you will feel a huge difference. All right, you guys, we have made it to step number 5 of how to walk into unconditional self-love, and it is going to be shift your mindset. Now, I know this kind of sounds like what I just talked about, and it low-key kind of is. But after you challenge your negative self-talk, like, the next step really is to shift your mindset, change your mindset. Because it's one thing to challenge something, but it's another thing to actually work through changing it for the better. So yeah, you could challenge your negative self-talk all day long, but if you don't ever fully shift your mindset into that positive space, then it's never going to change. So you have to make concrete, intentional steps towards a more positive mindset, a more positive thinking, a more positive state. And again, this step can be hard for some people, but I think you have to remind yourself that, like, nothing is going to change overnight. And even though you might have been able to shift your mindset for one day and then the next day you're back to that negative self-talk, the beauty of this is you can continue to, like, go through these steps. Like, when a thought comes up, challenge it and shift your mindset from it. Like, truly guide yourself into this positive place that you want to be. We have to stop beating ourselves up for every single mistake that we make, and we also have to realize in that same breath that, like, you have choices. You can choose to change your life, change your mindset, change your thinking at any point. So I think that if we remember that, then self-love and supporting yourself and, you know, just being nice to yourself could come a lot easier. So that will end everything from, you know, my little outline that I had. What do I want to leave you guys with? What are some positive vibes that we can leave on this Monday with? Just remember that self-love is a journey, okay? It is not a destination. I truly believe that self-love is something that we're going to continuously have to walk through every single day. So I don't want you guys to get so stuck on, like, once I make it here, like, then I've reached self-love for the rest of my life, because I just don't think that that is true. I think that we are ever evolving people. And like I said at the beginning, there's always going to be something that comes up that forces you to love yourself in a new way. So I think the last thing that I want to leave you guys with is to just, like, embrace the journey, embrace the self-love journey, because that is literally what it is. You don't need to be taken by surprise when something comes up and you're now having these negative thoughts all of a sudden, and, like, you're trying to figure out where it's coming from. Like, you know where it's coming from. It's coming from a life change. It's coming from, you know, insecurities, or maybe somebody told you something at work the other day. Like, I don't know. It could literally come from anywhere. But I think the more that we're aware of those things happening in our mind, it's going to be easier to get over every single time. Now, do I think that there are some seasons that you might, you know, be stuck in a rut for longer? Absolutely. I mean, I feel like even though I'm very aware and conscious of, like, my thoughts and how I'm treating myself, it is still a work in progress for me. And it's something that I literally have to work at every single second of the day, and not be so critical of myself. But I think that's just what comes with being a woman in general. And I think that that's just what comes with life. So I'm sorry if that's not the most inspirational thing that you want to hear, but I truly think that this is just something we're going to have to always walk through. And there's always going to be something that we have to, you know, get on the other side of. But again, I think if we just accept that as a fact, then we won't be so resistant to change. We won't be so hard on ourselves, and it'll just make the process a little bit easier to get through. So anyways, that is what I'm going to leave you guys with. I love you so much. I hope you have the best Valentine's Day, whether you're in a relationship, doing something by yourself, doing something with your girlfriends, with your family. All relationships matter around this time of year, so it doesn't matter what yours looks like. I hope that you have a good one. Have a great Monday, a great week, and I will talk to y'all in my next episode.